you. I'm aware I'm the last one before lunch, so I will try and be as brief as possible, but I did also get up at 5:45 to be here, so I am going to talk at some length. Following on from everybody else's, you'll see that all the images are generated. I have used ChatGPT and Gemini. I think it's interesting the variety of different sites we've all used today to generate our images within AI. And it shows, of course, that there is a broad spectrum of programs out there. And there is interesting training and research, I think, to be done on why people prefer some rather than others. But that's by the by. I've been listening today to and making notes on all the wonderful things that have been said, both online and here. My session today is about integrity. It's about the ethical and other ideas behind how we use this form of tech. We've all talked about, and we've all thought about, and we've all feared the downside of the unethical robot on our screens. The AI without integrity, the idea that students are doing this, are using this technology, as in the previous presentation, they're using it, but not sure how or not sure what the ethical use of it is. And so I'm going to talk a bit today about how we can bring in integrity and ideas of integrity and ethics into some methods of using AI in the classroom. I am doing this based around the ICAI, the International Centre for Academic Integrity's ideas of these 6 principles of academic integrity. I'm aware this is an American group mostly, and some of these ideas might be westernized. And some of what I want to talk to you about today is about bias inherent in the system and the Western bias towards some of these things. But I'm using these as an example. We can talk through, and some of these things are raised by other people in other ways, like Anne, instead of using the word courage, use the word brave, and honesty has been raised by a lot of other people. I think the point we have to make here is, and the one I want to come back to again and again, is the idea of respect for students and respect for staff and respect for the technology. Because this is the way that we can make sure that we are using this technology in a very ethical way. We should respect our students and the effort that our students are putting into their academic work. And we should respect the fact that they do have external lives outside of their academic life. And so we should think about why they are using AI in the way they are. As Emma, I think, very nicely said, not all of our students are going to go on to law jobs. So some of them might be using it just because they see assessments as a hoop to jump through, rather than seeing it as a way of demonstrating skills and establishing skills ready for their graduate life. So we should respect the position of our students and why they are using the technology in the way they are, in order to turn around and be able to engage with them on that level, so that they can then respect us, and there can be this level of honesty and trust between us in using AI in the classroom. I'd like to center this. I love this is my favorite, I think, image that I created. I came across this quote by Jeff Ski a while ago, that the problem is with higher education is that we are entering a system where AI is doing to us what mechanization did to manual workers in previous centuries. So we now no longer need people with spades because we can have big machines that will do it for us. We now have, in effect, machines that will just generate products. And is the knowledge economy just generating products? Is it just generating the essay? So I think a lot of students who use Gen AI, certainly to produce essays for those sorts of assessments, do it because they don't necessarily see the product rather than the skills behind it. And we need to make sure that we are really being honest to our students that, no, we're giving you an essay because we want you to think. I have students come to me, before AI at least, I had students come to me when I set an essay saying, what's the right answer? And people are nodding. And of course, Gen AI is very good at giving what it thinks is the right answer. It sounds very authoritative. And so students might do that because they are scared of getting the wrong answer. But the thing I always said to my students was, it's not about the product. It's about, I want to see what you think. Yes, fair enough, I really want it to be cited and I really want you to use the case law correctly. But if I set you an essay question, I want to know what you think, because you guys are going to be the people in the future. Tell me what you think the law does. Law is a social science, after all. So we do have to bear this in mind about what the fear is. We want to make sure that our students are ready to enter the legal profession or graduate professions. So as law schools, we are here to hopefully engage with our students about why we're doing the things that we're doing, why we assess them in the way that we do, in order to make sure that they develop the skills that they need, not just as a product, not just as a, mechanized system of churning out these written work, but to really think about what they are generating in order to go into the world of work and be critical. When I started this, I was thinking around the challenges and opportunities that AI presents to us. And these two quotes, I won't read them out loud, I have the citations on my final slides, really sort of made me think. What we really want is sound curriculum design. AI can help with this, and we've all talked around, I think, this morning, and we'll continue, I think this afternoon session will be good, about how that works in practice, about how bringing in AI into the classrooms, into assessments, can assist with that. But it is worth remembering that we don't necessarily need to force it into everything, and there is a place in the legal curriculum for, quote unquote, old-fashioned teaching in a room. Things like Lego play, for example. Have any of you used Lego? Yes, there we go. So technology is fabulous, but there is still, we should still remember that there is space for these other forms of pedagogy. And I think the top quote is the one that we're really talking about today, is that we should step away from thinking about traditional education as lecture seminars. And I think most of us have now anyway. But it's this focus on critical thinking. And if you're using Gen AI, it should be to promote critical thinking, because that's the skill we're trying to get at with our students. Creativity, yes, creative thinking. Human interaction. The fact that we really do need to promote humanity. I think somebody, I can't remember who from this morning, mentioned the human element of the law is still very important. This slide was designed to talk very nicely about the fact that law firms are already using AI, such as Harvey, but we've had a very nice presentation on that already, so I won't do too much about that, because as I say, I am preventing everyone having their lunch, so I won't talk on that topic very much longer. So I'm now going to talk to you about 3 ways that I have thought of using those 6 factors, those 6 academic integrity values, in bringing AI into the curriculum. This isn't necessarily talking about assessment. We've had some very good talks from other people about assessment. This is about pedagogy. This is about the day-to-day teaching of modules. To begin with, I will talk to you about an idea around AI-assisted case briefing and citation validation. I'm aware that I think somebody else talked on this morning in some detail, but I will also mention it. My idea here is basically to build on the work that's already being done. We know that there are companies out there, such as Case Snappy, who saw a gap in the market at the start of this academic year, certainly. They do this. They do a variety of, they summarize cases, they summarize the way the law works. It's sort of like the AI version of some of these other things we've seen before, like student helpful websites online. What they did, rather cynically, I don't know if any of you saw this in your law schools, they go to student law societies, and they offer them a hefty discount if the student law society advertises their product to their students. And we know that these things are then used potentially in assessments when they shouldn't be. And that's, again, we need to be training our students, as someone else has already said this morning, about the ethical use of these products in the law curriculum. So I thought, well, why not do it ourselves? Cut out the middleman. So, for example, one of the case studies that I was thinking of was use AI to generate a case brief, and then give students that brief and just the case citation. The students then have to look up the case, read the judgment, and compare it with the brief that the AI has generated. They then write a reflective piece on whether the AI case brief was good, bad, or indifferent, and the skills that they used to do this analysis. This again is bringing in the idea of students using digital literacy, using ideas of finding, how to go from a citation to Westlaw, Lexis, whatever, to get and to then generate the case brief themselves. This also reiterates to students that currently, at least in this version of, as you very nicely said, currently most of the more student accessible AIs, LLMs, aren't actually going to be correct all the time. This then will allow for reflectiveness and for a lot of talking in that area. Allows active learning through reviewing and correcting the materials. A similar way of doing this, of course, is to have an AI-generated essay with citations that are, some are correct and some, of course, will be hallucinated, and set the students to work to track down all the citations in that essay and track down and to see whether or not they are correct. Because a lot of the time they'll either be completely fictitious, as we've all seen, I think, in marking work, or they will be real, but not necessarily supporting the things that they say they are. I don't know if any of you have kept track of your Google Scholar HHIs. I tend to go back every so often and look at mine. And a lot of the time my work is being used to cite those. And I'm like, not really what I said there, is it? And you can tell that it's because the title has led either the student or the AI to think that I'm saying something that I'm really not. So again, these to be two very good ways of doing this idea of case briefing and citation validation. I will say that there is one point to be made here, and that is that these LLMs are always improving. So while this might be a useful thing to do now and for the next couple of years, as you very nicely said, Lexis AI is accurate already. The others will unfortunately follow. So at some point we are going to have to be aware that the AI will just give the right answer, and this reflective element will not necessarily be terribly helpful. The next idea I had was this idea that I think we've seen very nicely from the law firms that have spoken and from some others. Document automation. I can't pronounce that. Where in a law clinic situation, potentially, or clinical legal education, students use this technology alongside their own skills in generating documents. They can either use custom GPTs or specific legal tools such as Thomson Reuters, I know, has Contract Express. There are things like Joseph Legal are out there to enhance student learning and support real clients. This has been talked on already, I think, by people like Emma and Katrina in their pro bono work. Basically, my idea was to follow that idea, but in a law clinic situation, and have the students so obviously they do the interview themselves. We're not sending robots out to do the interviews yet, hopefully at least, maybe in the future. But we are using them to, the students go in, they do the interview, they then use these forms of technology to generate the paperwork, and then go and see their supervising solicitor and see whether the technology is correct. I think a lot of if you're using the Thomson Reuters version, of course it will be, it's a professional version, but some of the custom GPTs won't be. And that again will be an interesting time to do reflective work on whether this thing is or is not helpful. And reflectiveness on the fact that these documentations, these templates in effect, are designed to save time. So yes, you can then spend more time with your clients, or alternatively see more clients, because obviously post LASPO, we have more clients in our clinics than we can see on a day-to-day basis. So there's reflective work there that can be done on, is this helpful technology or is this not? both by the students and by the supervising solicitors. But I will say that humanity is hopefully going to win out in a law clinic. We should keep our humans employed in our clinics. The one thing I will say is it is worth in this situation being aware that, as I said before, some of the GPTs are not going to be correct, as you very nicely said. So you do have to, if you're doing this with real clients, be aware and be very careful that you are not letting students run riot with these things without being fully supervised. We all know that students want to be helpful, and we all know that students get very involved in the clinics and they desperately want to do more and do more. And we really must make sure that they are doing it within a safe, constrained environment for ethics, if nothing else. It is also worth knowing and being aware that there are privacy concerns here, as I think was mentioned earlier when we talked about it being done in a clinic. We do have to be aware that we have to make sure that students are not putting client information into any of these systems. It is not yet clear from a data privacy standpoint where that data goes, especially for some of these GPTs that are based outside of the country. It is also worth being aware. Someone mentioned copyright earlier. I can't remember who it was, I'm sorry. The problem is these GPTs are at the forefront of technology. How they work, some have said, is wide-scale copyright infringement. They are taking other people's documents, consuming them, and regurgitating them. I know there have been one or two cases recently where it seems like the AI are winning, the Meta case recently, for example. There's a whole discussion, I can do this, about the Google Books case and whether it is actually or isn't a good use of that case. By the by, the point I'm trying to make is that currently, because they are being sued, in America, they are being sued, OpenAI, for example. Because of that, because of discovery rules in America, anything you put into ChatGPT, even if you think you've deleted it, they have to keep centrally as part of their law case because they are being sued. So be very aware that what you're putting in, even if it looks like it, you can delete it afterwards, it probably isn't being deleted from their central servers. So it's worth bearing that in mind. Finally, I have this idea of moot court simulations with AI generated judges. This is a more pie in the sky idea. I know some law schools do this already, but it does require an awful lot more use of technology, things like VR, for example, and that sort of thing, which not all law courses and law schools may have access to. The theory here is that in order to get students happy with the idea of mooting, a lot of our students that we're seeing, I don't know if you're seeing this across out there in the global space and indeed in here in the room, students are concerned about speaking in public in front of real people. Nodding. Yeah? We're seeing students with social anxiety coming to us saying, I can't do a presentation. I can't do an advocacy assessment. I can't speak out loud. I don't know if this is post-COVID. I don't know if this is something to do with generation of children growing up, not reading and not interacting in the same way as we did. But the idea I had was to get people happier with moot courts, with the idea of advocacy in person. Because again, remember that we are trying to train our students to be skilled graduates, and being able to speak for themselves and advocate for themselves is, if nothing else, the very basic skill that I think all graduates should have. And so what I was trying to do with this idea was you set up a moot court with an AI judge first. So they're not talking to real people. They're not having to come into a room that's either a courtroom. I know lots of law schools like mine have got wonderful moot courts in now, and it's wonderful. The furniture's fabulous. But the flip side is it terrifies the students. So what I said was, and what there's research to be done is, have a VR courtroom to begin with, at least as a training method. Set up a VR courtroom with AI generated judges, and the students moot to the AI judge first. These judges are set up as either chatbots. You can have some that do speech to text and text to speech. If you're looking at there are programs out there. Whisper AI, I think, will do it. And see what the AI judges say. And then, of course, when they then do the real moot, see if it makes them more confident. Also do a reflective piece on whether the AI judge was right. Because as we've very nicely said, sometimes they won't be right. And they, of course, won't necessarily be able to check case law yet. There are some companies that are already doing this. You've got iMoot Court, you've got HyperWrite that have versions of this already. So it is worth thinking about whether you could bring this in, either within your modules or within your moot society, if you have such a thing. I know some schools do, some don't. So again, you eventually end up mooting in front of a real person, because I think we all need that experience, and we can't be sending law graduates into the real world if they've never mooted in front of an actual flesh and blood judge with a wig and a gown and, you know, all the other accoutrements, because we want them to be comfortable in the room, and we want them to not be freaked out when they go into a real court just by the, oh my word, there are real people out there of it all. So I've shown you three sort of ideas that there are about how we can bring AI into the curriculum. The idea of this talk was about academic integrity, these 6 things. So, for example, to summarise the ways that I think these might support academic integrity and the ideas of academic integrity that we can bring in, it's things like the AI use is transparent and declared, both by myself as the teacher and by the students as students. So we're being honest with each other, and we are developing academic honesty. We are showing that we trust the students with this technology. We aren't just, as you said very nicely, the students aren't feeling supported by their universities in their use of AI. If we bring it into the curriculum, if we do it in this way, we are showing that we trust the students with the training that they have, and we give them the training, to use technology in an ethical way. We're being fair, because hopefully, if we are embedding this in the curriculum, we are allowing students the same access to technology and the same access to training. Because currently, at the moment, of course, we have students that will pay for the professional version of ChatGPT and thus get a better answer than the students that can't afford it or that don't want to spend the money. And it's showing respect for students as they become digital and as they can develop these skills. It is worth remembering that it's worth remembering that, as was said earlier, not all students are digital natives. And by giving them this training, by bringing it into the classroom, by being open about its benefits and its errors, we can show students that we want to upskill them and that we have respect for their level of work. And it's a responsible level of use of the technology. Basically, it's not a substitute for critical thinking. It is using critical thinking through the lens of technology. It's only a similar sort of thing as what I want to show AI for my students is what I had when I'm old enough that my undergrad degree, Westlaw and Lexis existed and we had computers, but I certainly didn't have a laptop when I was an undergrad. I had to use university computers, and otherwise you had to go to the university library, go up to the right floor, find the stacks. It was per K. That was the library usage for me, to find the journal, hard copy, to go along the shelf, use all the Bodleian numbers. And now we have Westlaw. And that's just deemed a thing, isn't it? That's just, we expect our students to use Westlaw. And for me, I want AI to be as unsurprising to students as using Westlaw is now to me. I think it's a shame that we are losing physical books. And I know that there's a whole lot of things going on about how libraries are now more ebooks than physical books, and publishers and all the rest of that. That's a whole different topic. But to summarise, before we all go for lunch, because I'm aware that I said I'd be quick, my recommendations. Firstly, we need policy. I want to second, third, fourth, I think we've all heard it this morning. Universities need clear policy, and they need to explain that policy in simple words to students so they don't think that all AI is cheating. Because currently at the moment, we're seeing some students that are using AI and getting away with it. And some students are coming to me going, well, I'm not using AI because I'm terrified of cheating. But I think this is miserably unfair because these people are using AI. So we need to have clear policies and explained to the students. Students should all be given access to the same technology, hopefully good technology, so that everyone's at a parity. And this is going to be the controversial one. This is going to be the one where everyone laughs. Faculty should be given full training on all this form of tech and the ethical considerations for its use. I'm not going to ask the academics in the room to put their hands up as to whether they think they are ever fully trained on any of the tech that comes across their way and what their instinct is whenever they get an email from heads of school or IT saying, we're bringing in new forms of tech this year. Yes, the eye rolling. Now you have to learn how to use Panopto. Now you have to learn how to use whatever. Oh, alongside all your teaching. So yes, I'm aware that this is potentially a problem with timing in the academic cycle, but it is something that really should be done. As has been said, academics should be confident in this so that they can provide the confidence to their students. Students need training on ethical AI as a skills module as part of their skills development, as I think has been said by very nice other people. Basically, this shift, the inclusion of AI into the classroom should be intentional, informed by pedagogy, and grounded fully in integrity rather than innovation. I think I'll stop it there because it is lunchtime and I don't want to stop everyone else from eating the furniture. I know we're all hungry. I will take any questions at the lunch break if anyone has any.